Hey everybody, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. So men are grabbing their passports, but so are women who are very much also encouraging traveling abroad, whether it's through the soft life era or hot girl summer, and something I've seen even more recently, which is solo travelers, different women going from country to country, experiencing international cultures alone. But while I do think travel is a beautiful thing that anybody should try to experience if they can, I want to be honest about the fact that when men and women travel, it is a very, very different experience. And I know this might be controversial because, we live in the USA where, supposedly men and women are treated equal across the board. But even if that is something that we strive to do in America, in reality, when you go outside of America and when you visit other countries, many countries don't operate that way. In fact, I would argue that a good majority of countries have very clearly established gender roles and have very clearly established roles of what men and women should do. So I saw this post go viral of a solo traveler. She looks like she has gone very, very many places. She actually has some pretty helpful content on her TikTok. She offers different tips. She offers just different experiences, different places that she goes. But here are my concerns when it comes to solo travel, especially for women and especially for Black women. As I mentioned before, men and women are usually treated and perceived differently in a lot of different societies. So I remember when I went to Zanzibar with my husband, and on the way to Zanzibar, we had to stop off at Dubai. And I remember my cousin telling me specifically, she was like, hey, if you go to Dubai, make sure your husband talks. Make sure your husband is the one that speaks for you. Make sure that he's the one that, asks questions, because in this culture, it is not appropriate for you to talk to men directly. As a woman, that will be considered improper. And I remember her telling me that. And so when I went there, I did notice a lot of them were covered. I made sure my husband asked everything. I just didn't really see men and women interacting. And I think back to the advice that my cousin gave me, and I was like, gosh, that was so smart. I appreciate it. And we didn't have any issues as a result. But I wonder, what if I was a woman who went to Dubai by myself and I'm dressed in American apparel, or maybe even I do try to put on something more traditional, but I am by myself and I am in a culture where men are just not accustomed to talking to women. That could open up all kinds of challenges, and quite frankly, that could even open you up to be taken advantage of. And that is just one of many examples. As I mentioned, there are plenty of countries that have very, very different customs and very, very different norms. And this brings me to my bigger point. Ultimately, people have the right to do and the right to travel wherever they want to go. But I think especially as women, it's really important to understand that at the end of the day, a lot of countries out there don't see men and women the same. They don't treat them the same. There are countries out there where literally men and women are kept separate from society. There are countries out there where it's considered improper for you to go out by yourself if you don't have a man. There are countries who still very much live and act like that. And unfortunately, Americans have the reputation from some other countries of feeling like everybody is like them, not really acclimating well, or thinking that everybody else talks like them, acts like them, has a similar culture. And so I think if you are not prepared, if you are not trained, if you don't know what you're going into, sometimes I think American women, white women, Black women, can go into these certain cultures expecting as if everybody acts like they do, expecting as if everybody sees the way that they do, expecting as if everybody has the same vantage point. And they don't. They simply do not. And so while solo traveling in an American standpoint, or even in a Western standpoint, may be considered okay within certain norms, there are literal countries out there and cultures out there to this day where that would be considered strange. And you have to understand that. And if you are, as a woman, traveling to a country where that kind of behavior would be considered strange, then you can't be surprised if you're mistreated. You can't be surprised if people look at you weird. You can't be surprised if people give you the side eye. You can't be surprised if people, see that you're unsafe. And these are some of the issues that I think women can run into if they're not careful. Traveling to a very, very, very conservative or a very, very traditional country as a single modern woman by yourself already is setting yourself up for failure. Secondly, let's talk about apparel. Now, one thing I noticed about this woman in her TikTok is that, she has really, really beautiful outfits, which nothing wrong with it. I love beautiful outfits. Of course, it's fun to go to these different countries and dress up. It's fun. But one of the things that sometimes travel agents will tell you is that, when you're going into certain countries, especially if you're going to areas that are poor, you don't want to be flashy because you make yourself an easy mark. So already out the gate, I'm thinking, okay, if you went to, for example, I think she mentioned she went to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, or if you went to some of those different, different neighborhoods in Brazil that are really, really poor, and you're wearing that, beautiful dress, or you're wearing really, really nice apparel, or you have jewelry on, you're making yourself an easy mark. You are making yourself an easy mark. Now, see, and here's the thing also about modern women. We love to flash. We love to be flashy. We love to look at how cute we look on the beach, how cute we look in our different clothes. We love to do that. But that does not necessarily mean that you're safe. Like I said, there are literally agents that will tell you, to not have nice jewelry, to try to dress down, or to make sure that you kind of blend in. And again, that may mean that you can't wear your best looking outfit. That may mean that you can't look flashy or wear that beautiful bright dress or skirt, because you don't want to be seen as a mark. And so again, this becomes another issue that, like, if you're traveling alone, first off, there's a risk if you end up going to a traditional country where women are not usually out by themselves. Secondly, if you are wearing clothes, or if you're wearing jewelry or anything that makes it seem as if you have resources, or make it seem as if you have money, you are now an easy mark. And so, already when I was looking at her video, and she was basically talking about how there was a few different countries where it was hard for her to get around as a single black woman. I'm like, well, this is not surprising at all, depending upon that culture, if they're really conservative. And then also, let's just be honest, there's certain, other countries out there where, like, racism is still pretty much in your face. Like, it's not covert, it's not like hidden. It's like they have very, 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 some areas where they have very limited interactions with black people. And so when they do, all they can draw upon is stereotypes. And then there's some places where they're just flat out racist. But again, like I said, if you are now as a single black woman, solo traveler, going to an area where it's pretty openly racist, yeah, you're probably gonna have some issues. So like I said, there are so many different dynamics that go into traveling, and while I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, and I actually would encourage anybody to do it, I think we have to be realistic and safe about what it is. I personally would never travel to another country by myself. Each time I've traveled, I've been like with a group, with friends, with my husband. I wouldn't have it any other way. If you're a woman who does want to solo travel, I guess, no one can stop you, but I personally don't think it is necessarily a safe thing, and I would certainly not recommend traveling by yourself alone in like really, really conservative countries. I'm like, if you are gonna do it, maybe just stick to the West or stick to certain countries where like they're used to seeing that, but like don't go to like Dubai, you know what I mean, or like rock around by yourself in like a halter top. Like, don't do that. Bad idea. And I think it's really important that if women who do really want to do this, if they do really want to take that route, they have to be safe. They really, really, really have to be safe. But, I also wonder, like, why? That's another thing I think about. Like, what is the point of traveling by yourself? I don't get it. I know when men talk about traveling by themselves, there are some who talk about, adventures, but there's also a pretty big plethora of them who talk about, for lack of a better term, just having fun with different women, just sleeping around with different women and being able to pay a minimal amount of money. Men are very open about that. For women, I'm thinking, what benefit do you have with traveling by yourself? I don't understand it. So, this is something that I haven't figured out yet. I might need to look into it. But if you guys have any insight onto that, what would be the benefit of a woman traveling by herself in a world where women are not seen? equal or equivalent or even treated equally as men? Like, what's the benefit of that? Let me know what you guys think. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your feedback. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.